What's going on, guys? It's Cameron from Tinker's Musings here. I know it's been a year since the last video, and I do apologize for that, but there are a few things that kind of got in the way and delayed me getting another video out. I switched to Linux last year, and I couldn't quite figure out the workflow right away. I was trying to use my old audio interface that I had before when I was using Windows, and you may ask why I switched to Linux. Well, the big reason is that Windows 11 has a bunch of telemetry and sort of tracking that they send back to Microsoft. And also, there's advertisements built into the OS now. Additionally, I just didn't feel like using Windows as my daily driver anymore. I can do native Linux development. I can run Docker containers without having to run a virtual machine. And there's just so many other benefits to running Linux. They outweighed the cons of having a more complex workflow for recording videos and running what's called Endeavor OS. And I would like to make a more in-depth video about my experience with Endeavor versus Windows 11, but it's kind of the technical challenges that contributed to the lack of videos in the last year. Additionally, a new job outside of the channel, my day job, and it's going well. I just had to really focus on making a good impression in the first several months there. And yeah, I just lost momentum with the YouTube channel in that time. My last video, I covered my 100 gigabit switch. It is still running in my rack. And, you know, you might ask, are you running 100 gigabits everywhere? No, I'm not. I'm actually still running 40 gigabits. I had to take a bit of a pivot at, yeah, I guess around this time last year. And then a couple months later, I decided to pull out of Chia, and that kind of drastically changed my plans for the rack and what I was going to do, building out all the servers and getting 100 gigabits. It's still kind of on my eventual roadmap to have 100 gigabits, but for now, I'm continuing with 40 gigabits. I do use the 100 gigabit switch, and it is part of my infrastructure, but I'm not using all 100 gigabits yet. There are some challenges that I faced on that side, and I'm not going to get into all of it here, but I can maybe do a follow-up video on that too. And really, it comes down to optics and the correct firmware for the cards that you might buy for ConnectX 4, for example, or ConnectX 5, and just the cost that's associated with all of that. And with pulling out of Chia, I didn't really have much motivation to continue with high-speed flash storage NAS. I still have the ability to do so, but I don't really have a use case for it now. It would just be more, I guess, for the novelty of it. At the time, I was using flash storage for plotting with Chia and my RTX 4090. Um, I have since sold a bunch of the equipment that I was using for Chia. Lots of the hard drives that I had were sold. I don't have the 4090 anymore because it was just way too much power for daily usage. Um, I would consider getting a 4070 potentially if the right price came along. I am running really just kind of a bare bones setup now. I still have my AMD EPYC server that I put together in the spring of 2023. That's what I was working on doing, building out this super, really awesome Chia plotting machine. And I had some trouble. Always use the right GPU cables, GPU power cables. Don't cheap out on that. I was trying to use some ATX to 4 GPU 8-pin adapter, and it ended up not being wired up correctly, or I didn't have everything on my end wired up correctly, and we fried the board. So the board is dead. I had to buy a second board, and I sold the second CPU, second set of RAM. I also sold, eventually after pulling out of Chia, the majority of my hard drives. I still have all of my HMSMR drives because those are harder to resell, but they offer great density for the space and the price that I got. I'm still sitting at like 300 terabytes raw across that NAS, and my other NAS has, I think, 180 to 100 terabytes. But I have actually started to look at other avenues for revenue, And that's where I started looking into another hobby of mine, and it's game collecting and reselling as part of that to support the game collecting hobby, as well as provide some additional income for the house. So I'm just on the beginning part of the reselling. I have been an eBay member for many years, but I'm just now ramping up my eBay presence this year and really going after it. I'm not looking to rip people off though, right? I want to be fair and make sure that the person I'm buying something from feels good about what they're selling. And I do also want to leave some profit margin for what I'm trying to do. But in the meantime, we give those games or the consoles a new home and somebody else can enjoy them. I'm not even intending to make this channel about reselling. I'm just telling you that's kind of what I've been doing outside of work. I've also started my fitness journey about 18 months ago, and I'm making some good strides. I'm getting stronger, getting more cardio health, but it's a journey, right? It's not a destination. So if you are starting to get into fitness or getting back into fitness, it's great. Make sure that you have at least started that if you haven't, because your fitness is going to be your longevity. You know, I'm entering my mid 30s and I want to be around for much longer. So that is why I'm making changes now. You should always keep some kind of fitness routine going, even if it is just walking. Walking is huge. I do a mixture of strength training, cardio, running, you name it. And, you know, I do show up to like 3 to 4 times a week. That's kind of my goal. And I want to just be healthier for my family. Well, I've gone on a few minutes here about updates. I did have the hope to get back to YouTube eventually, and you know, I've been encouraged to get back into it. And I think I might start a second channel where I can go over more of the reselling aspects of my other hobby and not so much talk about reselling here, but I could go into some of the hardware stuff here if is interesting to you guys. So if I end up refurbishing a console or controllers, I can talk about my process there. I think I want to say I've been doing this since about 2016, 2017 with the servers. It's only evolved over time, and I do want to keep some of it around. I think my AMD EPYC server is a bit overkill for what I'm currently working on, but it is a substantial investment, so I need to think about whether it's something I keep or I part with it and do something different. But that'll do it kind of for today's video, guys. I know it's been a while since my last video. I do want to have more content coming out this year. I do want to look at the possibility of a second channel. And feel free to subscribe when I make that channel. And I'll let this main channel know when that happens. So if you're into that stuff, I'd be happy to have you over there too. Well, that'll do it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.